The diplomatic vessel Starward Hope dropped out of faster-than-light travel, and the blue-green planet of Ara Prime filled the. Danny Cole pressed his face closer to the observation window and felt his heart beat faster. He was 19 years old, and this was his first deep space mission. Everything about this moment felt like a dream he never wanted to wake from. Commander Lisa Grant stood at the center of the bridge with her hands clasped behind her back. She was a tall woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and eyes that had seen too many negotiations go wrong. She turned to address her crew with the calm voice of someone who had done this 100 times before. Listen carefully, everyone. They are not like any species we have encountered before. They are a civilization that has ruled 40 star systems for over 10,000 years. They believe that strength is the only measure of worth. They will test us the moment we step off this ship. Stay calm and stay professional. Danny swallowed hard and returned to his station. He was the junior communications technician on this mission. His job was to monitor frequencies and assist with translation software. He was only here because his professors at the academy had recommended him for his unusual talent with pattern recognition and language learning. He had picked up 3 alien languages in his first year alone. The shuttle bay doors opened, and Danny followed the rest of the team into the transport craft. There were 12 of them in total. Commander Grant led the group along with her senior diplomatic staff. 6 security officers in light armor flanked them on both sides. Danny brought up the rear carrying his portable translation equipment. The flight down to the planet's surface took 20 minutes. Danny spent most of it staring out the window at the alien landscape below. The cities of they were built like massive hives that stretched toward the sky. Thousands of smaller structures connected them like the threads of some enormous web. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. They landed on a platform outside the largest hive structure Danny had ever seen. The royal palace of Sovereign Eth rose before them like a mountain of dark metal and organic material fused together. Guards lined the walkway leading to the entrance. They were creatures standing nearly 7 feet tall with 4 arms and mandibles that clicked constantly as they watched the humans approach. Danny felt very small and very soft compared to them. The interior of the palace was even more impressive. Bioluminescent panels lit the corridors in shades of blue and purple. The walls seemed to breathe as they walked past them. The air smelled strange but not unpleasant. Danny recorded everything with his equipment while trying not to trip over his own feet. They entered the grand audience chamber, and Danny had to stop himself from gasping out loud. The room was enormous. Hundreds filled the space. Warriors with blade-like appendages stood in rigid formations. Workers along the walls carrying items Danny could not identify. Advisors in elaborate ceremonial dress clustered near a raised platform at the far end. And there, on a throne that seemed grown from the floor itself, sat Sovereign Eth. She was massive. Her body stretched nearly 15 feet long, and her carapace shimmered with colors that shifted as she moved. 6 eyes studied the approaching humans with an intelligence that made Danny's skin prickle. She was ancient and powerful and completely inhuman. Yet somehow Danny sensed a deep weariness behind those alien eyes. Commander Grant stepped forward and began the formal greeting protocols. She spoke of peace and mutual cooperation between their peoples. She offered the friendship of the Human Federation and the hope of beneficial trade agreements. Her words were perfect and her delivery was flawless. The Queen did not respond to any of it. Instead, the warriors began circling the human security team. They clicked and chittered among themselves. One of them poked at a human soldier with a clawed appendage. The soldier stood his ground, but Danny could see the tension in his jaw. "Soft creatures," one warrior hissed in accented human speech. "No claws, no armor, no venom. How do they survive?" The other warriors made sounds that might have been laughter. Commander Grant continued speaking, but Danny noticed that the Queen was not listening to her at all. Sovereign Eth had risen from her throne, and was descending the steps with slow, deliberate movements. The chamber fell silent as she approached the human delegation. She walked past the security officers without a glance. She moved around Commander Grant as if the woman did not exist. The Queen's massive form passed each human one by one. Her eyes examined them and dismissed them just as quickly. Then she stopped. Danny found himself staring up at the alien queen from less than 3 feet away. Her compound eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made it hard to breathe. He could smell her now. She smelled like rain on hot stone mixed with something sweet he could not name. "This one," the queen said. Her voice resonated through the chamber like the lowest note of some vast instrument. "This one is different." Commander Grant stepped forward with alarm on her face. "Your Majesty, I must protest. Danny Cole is a junior member of our delegation. Surely you would prefer to speak with our senior representatives who have the authority to negotiate on behalf of humanity." The Queen did not look at her. She continued to study Danny as if he were some rare specimen she had never encountered before. One of her clawed hands reached out and tilted his chin upward so gently that Danny barely felt it. "I can smell it on him," she said. "Something your warriors lack, something your leader lacks, something precious." The ambassador rushed forward and began speaking rapidly in his native tongue. The Queen silenced him with a gesture. "According to the ancient laws of the Empire, I claim this human as mine," she announced to the chamber. "He will remain here under my protection. This is not a request." Danny felt the blood drain from his face. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Commander Grant's voice turned hard and cold. "You cannot simply take one of my people. This is an act of aggression that could have serious consequences for relations between our species." The Queen finally looked at the commander. There was no malice in her gaze, only certainty. "I have ruled this empire for 3,000 years. I have seen species rise and fall like waves upon a shore. I have never claimed a being from another world before this moment." She looked back at Danny and something in her expression softened. "But this one is special. I knew it the moment he entered my chamber." She placed a massive claw on Danny's shoulder with surprising gentleness. "He is mine." The audience chamber erupted into chaos. Commander Grant was shouting at the ambassador while her security team formed a protective circle around Danny. The warriors clicked their mandibles in what sounded like amusement. They made no move to stop the humans, but their postures made it clear that any violence would be met with overwhelming force. Danny stood frozen in the center of it all. His mind raced through every possible scenario, and none of them ended well. He was a communications technician, not a diplomat or a soldier. He had no idea how to handle a situation like this. The ambassador finally managed to make himself heard above the noise. He was a smaller creature than the warriors with elaborate markings on his carapace that indicated his station. "Please understand," he said in careful human speech. "The sovereign has invoked the ancient right of claiming. This law predates our empire itself. When the Queen claims a being, that being belongs to her absolutely. To refuse would be considered an act of war." Commander Grant's face went pale. "You cannot be serious. You would start a war over one junior technician." "We would not start it," the ambassador replied. "You would. By refusing the sovereign's claim, you would be insulting her authority and the foundations of our civilization. Our fleet outnumbers yours by a factor of 50 to 1. I do not think your federation would survive such a conflict." Danny listened to the exchange and felt something cold settle in his stomach. This was bigger than him now. This was about 2 civilizations and millions of lives. He thought about his mother back on Earth and how she had cried when he left for the academy. He thought about his little sister who had made him promise to come home safely. Then he thought about all the people who would die if war broke out. He stepped forward before anyone could stop him. "Commander Grant, may I speak?" The commander looked at him with surprise and concern. Danny, this is not the time for you to get involved in negotiations. With respect, ma'am, I think it is exactly the time. He turned to face the alien queen who had watched the entire commotion with patient stillness. Your Majesty, may I ask you a question? Sovereign Eth tilted her massive head. You may. Why me? You have warriors and diplomats and scientists from 100 different species visiting your world. Why would you claim a 19-year-old human who has never done anything important in his entire life? The queen made a sound that Danny could not interpret. It might have been approval. Because you are the first being to enter my chamber in 300 years who did not stink of fear or aggression, she said. Your soldiers fear us. Your commander fears failure. Even my own warriors fear showing weakness. But you stood in this room surrounded by creatures that could tear you apart, and all I could smell from you was curiosity. She descended to his level with slow, careful movements. There was something else, too. When my warriors mocked your people, you did not feel anger. You felt concern for your. When I approached, you felt worry for your commander rather than yourself. These are rare qualities in the universe, young one. Danny did not know what to say to that. He had always been told that his tendency to worry about others was a weakness. His instructors at the academy had warned him that it would hold back his career. What will happen to me if I stay? He asked. You will live in comfort and safety. You will be treated with respect, and you will help me with a task that no other being in my empire can perform. Commander Grant stepped forward again. Danny, you do not have to do this. We will find another way. I will contact the Federation and we will negotiate for your release. Danny looked at his commander and saw the guilt in her eyes. She blamed herself for bringing him on this mission. She would spend years trying to get him back, and in the meantime the inhumanity would be enemies. He made his decision. Commander Grant, the mission was to establish peaceful relations with the Empire. If my staying here can accomplish that, then it is worth it. He straightened his shoulders and tried to look braver than he felt. I volunteer to remain as a guest of the sovereign. The chamber fell silent. Even the clicking of the warriors stopped. Sovereign Eth regarded him with those 6 alien eyes, and Danny thought he saw something like respect in them. A guest, she repeated. Yes, I think that is the correct word. You will be my guest, Danny Cole of humanity. Commander Grant looked like she wanted to argue more, but she recognized a lost battle when she saw one. I will return for you, Danny. That is a promise. I know you will, ma'am. The humans were escorted back to their shuttle under heavy guard. Danny watched them go and felt a loneliness settle over him that was unlike anything he had experienced before. He was truly alone now. Alone on an alien world surrounded by creatures that saw humans as soft and weak. The queen led him personally through winding corridors that went deeper and deeper into the hive palace. The walls grew warmer the further they traveled. The bioluminescent lights shifted from blue to amber. Danny realized they were approaching the heart of the structure. His quarters were not what he expected. He had imagined a cell or perhaps some sort of specimen container. Instead, he found a comfortable room with human-style furniture and a window that looked out over an underground garden. It was strange and beautiful. How did you prepare this so quickly? He asked. I knew you were coming, the queen replied. I sensed your ship entering our space 3 days ago. I have been waiting for you, Danny Cole. She settled her massive form onto a platform that seemed designed for her anatomy. In this smaller space, she seemed less intimidating somehow, more tired. You said you needed my help with a task, Danny said. What task could I possibly help with? I am nobody. The queen was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice carried a weight of sorrow that Danny had not expected from such a powerful being. My empire is dying, she said. We have conquered 40 star systems and commanded armies that could darken the skies of any world we choose. We have technology that your species will not develop for another 1,000 years. And none of it matters because we have lost something essential. Danny sat down slowly on the edge of his bed. What did you lose? The ability to care about anything beyond strength and survival. The queen's eyes dimmed slightly. No new queens have been born in 3 generations. My workers follow orders perfectly, but they cannot adapt to anything unexpected. My warriors fight bravely, but they cannot imagine any solution that does not involve violence. When I die, my empire will tear itself apart. She looked at Danny with an intensity that made his chest tight. I have searched for centuries for someone who could teach my people to feel what you feel. That concern for others. That curiosity about things that cannot be conquered. That warmth I sensed in you from the moment you entered my world. Danny stared at her. You want me to teach an entire civilization how to have emotions? No, the queen said softly. I want you to show them. I want you to be an example they can learn from. I want you to help me save my people from themselves. Danny thought about everything she had said. He thought about the cold warriors and the mechanical workers and the ancient queen who had ruled for 3,000 years and found herself powerless against the one enemy she could not fight. He was just a 19-year-old communications technician from Earth. But maybe that was exactly what they needed. I will try, he said. I do not know if I can help, but I will try. The queen reached out and touched his shoulder again, with that same surprising gentleness. That is all I ask. 3 months passed on Ara Prime, and Danny Cole learned more about the alien empire than any human had ever known. He walked the corridors of the Hive Palace freely now. The guards who once watched him with suspicion had grown accustomed to his presence. Some of them even nodded at him as he passed. The queen had arranged for him to observe every aspect of society. He watched the workers in their factories producing goods with perfect efficiency. He observed the warriors training in combat techniques that made human martial arts look primitive. He sat in on council meetings where advisors debated strategy with cold logic and no emotion. And everywhere he went he saw the same thing: obedience without joy, duty without passion, service without love. It broke his heart. His first real breakthrough came with a worker named She was assigned to clean his quarters and bring him meals. For weeks, she performed her duties in complete silence. She never looked at him directly. She never responded to his attempts at conversation. She was like a machine shaped like a living thing. One day Danny was sketching in a notebook he had brought from the ship. He liked to draw when he felt homesick. It helped him remember that beauty still existed somewhere in the universe. Entered with his meal and stopped suddenly when she saw what he was doing. "What is that?" she asked. It was the first time she had spoken to him. Danny looked up in surprise. "It is a drawing. I am trying to remember what the sunset looked like on my home world." Moved closer and tilted her head to examine the sketch. "You create images of things that are not here. Why?" "Because it makes me feel good. Because I want to remember things that are important to me. Because creating something beautiful is its own reward." Danny held out the notebook to her. "Would you like to try?" The worker recoiled as if he had offered her something dangerous. "I am not permitted. Workers do not create, we serve." "Who told you that?" Did not answer. She finished her duties and left quickly. But Danny noticed that she glanced back at the notebook before she disappeared through the door. The next day, Danny left a blank notebook and some drawing tools on his table. He did not say anything about them. He simply went about his day and waited. When he returned that evening, the notebook was open. On the first page was a crude drawing of a flower from the underground garden. It was simple and awkward and absolutely beautiful. Danny smiled and turned to the next page. He wrote a single sentence beneath A's drawing. "This is wonderful. Please make more." Over the following weeks, A's drawings filled the notebook. She drew flowers and crystals and patterns she saw in the walls of the hive. She drew Danny himself sitting by the window looking out at the garden. She drew things that did not exist anywhere except in her own imagination. The queen noticed the change in her worker. She summoned Danny to her chambers and asked him what he had done. "I gave her permission to create," Danny said. "I do not think anyone had ever done that before." Sovereign Eth was quiet for a long time. "My people have not created art in over 2,000 years. We decided it was inefficient, a waste of resources that could be better spent on expansion and defense. With respect, Your Majesty, I think that was a mistake." The queen made that sound again that Danny had come to recognize as agreement. Perhaps it was. His next success came from an unexpected source. A warrior named Al had been assigned to guard Danny during his walks through the palace. He was a towering creature with scars covering his carapace and eyes that had seen more battles than Danny could imagine. For the first month, he never spoke a word. Then one day Danny tripped over an uneven floor panel and fell hard. He scraped his palms and felt the sting of tears in his eyes. Al stood over him and clicked his mandibles. "You are injured," the warrior observed. "It is nothing, just a scrape." Danny got back to his feet and wiped his hands on his clothes. Al studied him with an expression Danny could not read. "You did not cry out when you fell. You did not curse or blame others for your pain. Among my kind, such a fall would result in demands for the execution of whoever was responsible for the floor maintenance." Danny almost laughed. "It was an accident. Why would I want someone to die because I was clumsy?" The warrior had no answer for that. But from that day forward, he began asking Danny questions. He wanted to know why humans forgave mistakes. He wanted to understand why Danny worried about the workers who served him. He wanted to learn what made someone choose kindness when cruelty was easier. Danny answered every question as honestly as he could. He told Al about his family and his friends back home. He explained how humans formed bonds based on shared experiences rather than shared genetics. He described the feeling of helping someone without expecting anything in return. Listened to all of it, with the focus he had once reserved only for battle strategies. "These concepts are strange to me," he admitted one evening. "Among my people, bonds exist only within castes. A warrior does not befriend a worker. A worker does not speak to an advisor unless spoken to first. The queen rules all and is connected to none." "That sounds lonely," Danny said. The warrior was silent for a moment. "I do not know that word." Danny felt something twist in his chest. Lonely is what you feel when you have no one to share your thoughts with, when you have no one who cares about your struggles, when you face the darkness of the universe completely alone. Al looked at him with those ancient eyes. "Then I have been lonely my entire life. I simply did not have a name for it." Word began to spread through the palace about the strange human who treated workers like equals and spoke to warriors about their feelings. Some found it amusing. Others found it disturbing. A faction of traditionalist warriors led by General N found it dangerous. N was old even by standards. He had served 3 sovereigns before Eth, and he believed in the old ways with absolute conviction. Strength through discipline, power through fear, unity through obedience. He watched Danny's influence spread through the palace like an infection, and he grew more alarmed with each passing day. "The human is corrupting our people," he declared at a council meeting. "Workers are wasting time on useless creations. Warriors are questioning orders that have stood for. If this continues, the empire will crumble from within." The queen listened to his concerns with patience. "The empire was already crumbling, General. The human may be our only chance to save it." N's eyes burned with cold fury. "Then we are already lost." He left the council chamber that night and began gathering those who shared his views. The traditionalists met in secret and made their plans. They would not allow one soft creature from a primitive world to destroy everything their ancestors had built. Danny had no idea that enemies were gathering in the shadows. He only knew that, for the first time since arriving on this alien world, he felt like he was making a difference. And for now, that was enough. 6 months after Danny Cole arrived on Ara Prime, the changes in the palace had become impossible to ignore. Workers hummed while they performed their tasks. Warriors paused to admire the new murals that appeared on corridor walls. Advisors debated not just strategy but the meaning of their decisions and who they might affect. The Queen watched it all with a mixture of hope and fear. Hope because her people were showing signs of life she had not seen in centuries. Fear because she knew that change always attracts those who would destroy it. Danny had become something he never expected to be. He was not a leader or a diplomat or a prophet. He was simply a friend to anyone who needed one. He ate meals with workers and listened to their dreams. He trained with warriors and showed them that losing a sparring match did not diminish their worth. He argued with advisors and proved that admitting uncertainty was a form of strength, not weakness. Al had become his closest companion. The warrior followed Danny everywhere now, not because he was ordered to, but because he chose to. They talked for hours about everything and nothing. Learned to laugh. Danny learned to appreciate the brutal beauty of poetry. I had inspired a movement among the workers. Dozens of them now created art in their spare time. Some painted, others sculpted. A few had even begun composing music using instruments they built themselves from scrap materials. The sounds were strange to human ears, but Danny found them hauntingly beautiful. The Queen summoned Danny to her chambers one evening, as the artificial sun dimmed outside his window. "I want to show you something," she said. "Something I have not shown anyone in over 1,000 years." She led him through passages he had never seen before. They went deeper than he thought possible until they reached a chamber that glowed with soft, golden light. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and on the pedestal rested an object that looked like a large crystalline egg. "This is the last queen egg," Sovereign Eth said quietly. "It has remained dormant for 3 generations. No matter what we tried, it would not awaken. Our scientists said it was dead. Our priests said the gods had abandoned us." Danny approached the egg slowly. Up close he could see faint patterns swirling beneath its surface like clouds trapped in glass. "Why are you showing me this?" The Queen moved to stand beside him. "Because since you arrived the patterns have changed. The egg is responding to something. I believe it is responding to the changes you have brought to my people." Danny stared at the egg in wonder. "You think I am waking it up?" "I think hope is waking it up. Compassion is waking it up. All the things you have taught my people to feel are calling to the life within this shell." The Queen's voice carried more emotion than Danny had ever heard from her. "You may have saved my empire, Danny Cole. You may have given us a future." They returned to the upper levels in thoughtful silence. Danny's mind raced with the implications of what he had seen. A new queen would mean continuity for the. It would mean that the changes he had helped create could continue for generations. It also meant that the traditionalists were running out of time. General N made his move 3 days later. The occasion was a public ceremony to celebrate the anniversary of the Queen's coronation. Representatives from all castes gathered in the Great Hall. Danny stood near the front at the Queen's invitation. Al stood beside him with pride in his bearing. N entered the hall with 50 warriors at his back. They were the elite of his faction, veterans who had conquered worlds and crushed rebellions. They believed in the old ways with fanatical devotion. "Sovereign Eth," the general announced in a voice that silenced the crowd. "I invoke the right of formal challenge. I accuse this human of corrupting our people and weakening our empire. I demand justice according to the ancient laws." The Queen rose from her throne with dangerous grace. "You dare challenge my judgment in my own hall?" "I dare because I love the Empire more than I fear your wrath. This creature has infected our workers with laziness. He has poisoned our warriors with doubt. He must be destroyed before the damage becomes permanent." Danny felt cold fear spread through his chest. He had known that N opposed him, but he had not expected this. He looked at Al and saw the warrior's claws extended and ready to fight. No, Danny said quickly. Do not fight them, there are too many. I will not let them harm you, Al growled. Before Danny could respond, something extraordinary happened. A stepped out of the crowd and stood in front of him. Then another worker joined her. And another. Within moments, a wall of workers had formed between Danny and the traditionalists. Then the warriors who had learned to question their rigid codes stepped forward as well. They were fewer than N's forces, but they stood firm. N stared at the scene with disbelief. What is this madness? Workers standing against warriors, our own soldiers defending an alien. They are not defending an alien, Al said as he took his place among the defenders. They are defending their friend. The general's face twisted with rage. Then you have proven my point. The human has turned you all against your own kind. He has made you weak. No, the Queen's voice cut through the tension like a blade. He has made them strong in ways you cannot understand. He has given them something to fight for beyond fear and duty. He has given them each other. N drew his ceremonial blade. Then let this end the only way it can. I invoke the right of single combat. Let the human face me alone. If his new ways have any value, let them protect him against the old. The crowd gasped. Single combat was sacred among them. It could not be refused without shame that would last generations. Danny looked at the massive warrior general with his carapace and his eyes full of hatred. He knew he had no chance of winning a physical fight. He was a 19-year-old communications technician. N had been killing enemies since before humanity discovered fire. But refusing would undo everything he had built. It would prove the traditionalists right. It would show that compassion was weakness after all. Danny stepped forward. I accept. Al grabbed his arm. Danny, no, he will kill you. Maybe. Danny gently removed the warrior's grip. But if I run, then everything we have worked for dies anyway. At least this way there is a chance. He walked toward N with steady steps, and a heart full of fear he refused to show. The general smiled. It was not a kind expression. Prepare to die, human. The crowd formed a circle around Danny Cole and General N. Warriors and workers and advisors stood shoulder to shoulder watching in horrified silence. No one believed the young human could survive. They had come to witness his death and mourn the end of everything he had taught them. Danny stood in the center of the circle with empty hands and a racing heart. He had no weapons. He had no armor. He had no training that could help him against a creature that had spent perfecting the art of killing. N circled him slowly. The general moved like flowing water. Every step was precise. Every motion spoke of controlled violence waiting to be unleashed. You should not have come to our world, human. You should have stayed on your soft planet with your weak people. The general raised his blade. Now you will learn what happens to those who try to change the natural order. Danny watched him approach and realized something strange. He was not afraid of dying. He had been afraid of that when he first arrived. He had been terrified of being alone on an alien world surrounded by creatures that could destroy him without effort. But he was not afraid anymore. He was afraid of failing. He was afraid that his death would prove to these people that kindness was worthless. He was afraid that Al and all the others who had opened their hearts would close them again forever. That fear he could not accept. N lunged forward with blinding speed. Danny did not try to block or dodge. He did the only thing he could think of. He dropped to his knees. The blade stopped inches from his throat. N froze in confusion. This was not how combat worked. Opponents fought back. They resisted. They did not simply surrender. What are you doing? The general demanded. Danny looked up at him with steady eyes. I am not going to fight you. Then you will die on your knees like a coward. Maybe, but I want you to understand something first. Danny kept his voice calm despite the blade hovering so close to his skin. I know why you are doing this. I know you are afraid. N's eyes blazed with fury. I am not afraid of anything. You are afraid of change. You are afraid that everything you sacrificed your life for might have been wrong. You followed the old ways because they gave your existence meaning. You conquered worlds and crushed enemies and earned glory because that was what you were told mattered. Danny's voice softened. But now you see workers creating art instead of just laboring. You see warriors forming friendships instead of just alliances. You see your world becoming something you do not recognize, and it terrifies you. The general's blade trembled slightly. Silence. I am not your enemy, N. I never was. I am just someone who showed your people that there might be another way to live. That does not erase everything you accomplished. It does not make your sacrifices meaningless. Danny slowly rose to his feet. The blade followed him but did not strike. The empire you love is dying. The queen told me so herself. No new queens have been born in generations. Your people have forgotten how to adapt and grow. If nothing changes, they will destroy themselves within a century. He took a small step forward. N did not retreat, but his stance shifted almost imperceptibly. I did not come here to tear down what you built. I came here to help build something new alongside it. Strength and compassion are not enemies. Discipline and creativity can exist together. The old ways do not have to disappear. They just need to make room for new ones. Danny looked at the warrior's ancient face and tried to see past the rage and pride. You have spent your whole life serving an empire you love. That love is not weakness. It is the most human thing about you, even though you are not human at all. You feel it even if you have no word for it. That same feeling is what I have been trying to teach your people. He took another step forward until the blade actually touched his chest. Kill me if you must, but know that everything you are fighting against is already inside you. It always was. The great hall held its breath. N stood frozen with his blade pressed against the human's heart. His eyes searched Danny's face for deception or fear and found neither. He saw only sincerity and something else. Compassion, even now, even for the enemy who was about to kill him. The general's blade wavered. His breathing grew unsteady. Emotions he had suppressed for centuries crashed against the walls he had built around his heart. The blade lowered. I do not understand you, N said. His voice was rough with confusion. I do not understand how you can face death with kindness on your lips. Because kindness is all I have, Danny replied. It is the only weapon I brought with me to your world, and it is the only one that matters. N sheathed his blade with a gesture that seemed to cost him greatly. He looked at the queen, and then at the crowd of workers and warriors who had defended Danny. I withdraw my challenge, he said heavily. I do not accept the human's ways, but I will not destroy him for having them. A collective exhale swept through the hall, rushed forward and grabbed Danny's shoulders as if to confirm he was still alive. I was weeping openly. Others pressed close just to touch the young human who had faced down a legend with nothing but words. Sovereign Eth descended from her throne and approached Danny with slow, graceful steps. She towered over him, but there was no menace in her posture, only warmth. You have done something today that no being has done in 3,000 years, she said. You changed the mind of N through compassion alone. I was right to claim you, Danny Cole. She turned to address the assembled crowd. From this day forward, let it be known that this human is no longer a guest. He is family. He is my heir in spirit, if not in blood. He will help guide our people into a new age. The crowd erupted into sounds Danny had never heard before. Cheering and clicking and musical tones that expressed joy in ways human language could not capture. 2 weeks later, Commander Lisa Grant's rescue mission arrived at Aura Prime, expecting to negotiate for a prisoner. Instead, she found an ally. The Empire requested formal diplomatic relations with humanity. They offered technology and resources and military cooperation. They asked only that Danny remain as a bridge between their peoples. Danny agreed. He had found something on this alien world that he had never found anywhere else. He had found purpose. On the day the treaty was signed, Danny stood beside Sovereign Ev, as human and diplomats exchanged formal documents. The Queen placed a gentle claw on his shoulder. "I chose well," she said quietly. Danny smiled up at her. "I am just glad nobody started a war." The Queen made that sound Danny had learned to recognize as laughter. "That is exactly why I chose you." Later that evening, Danny walked through the underground garden with Al and at his side. The artificial stars glittered overhead. Somewhere in the depths of the palace, a new queen was stirring in her egg. Somewhere above them, two civilizations were learning to understand each other. And in the heart of it all stood a 19-year-old communications technician from Earth who had changed the fate of an empire with nothing but kindness. The universe was vast and strange and full of wonders. Danny Cole could not wait to see what came next.